I know, another negative video about AI. But please listen to this one. This one is very important. One day I was scrolling through my recommended tab on YouTube a few weeks ago, and I found this. Now I am, or was, a Need for Speed fan who loved delving into the series' long history in canceled games. So by all metrics, I was quite interested in what this video might offer. Another Need for Speed fan talking about the series? I was interested. But then I came across the first few
Something
seconds.
strangely wrong with the history of Need for Speed. And no,
It was a fucking AI generated video. What the fuck? And so, I turned it off. Although, just recently, I had it pushed back into my recommended tab, and so I got curious. You might think the voice would be the worst part, but oh boy, does it get so much worse. Let's start from the outside and make our way to the video. So first, let's look at the thumbnail. So nothing looks bad necessarily, but oh, look at that watch time. This video is fucking 28 agonizing minutes long, which at first seems like the video will include some good editing. Person will have the general respectable qualities of any creator. Well, if the AI voice didn't give it away, well, no. This video is composed almost entirely of just gameplay clips. The only editing are these cheap text on screen and the transitions between gameplay clips, which only happens 3 times throughout this entire goddamn video. All of this, they only use 3 entire gameplay clips for the rest of the video itself. All of this already doesn't bode well for things to come. After this video, I will be debunking much of the major things being said, as none of this video has any of what they claim to say. I will not be talking about plagiarism in this, as this would ruin my sanity trying to find anything. What I want to focus on is the massive amount of misinformation this video is talking about. Also, I know that the video quality is dog shit, but if the so the video starts and we are going to with Mr. AI voice talking about EA and the typical hook type shit you would find in any other video. I could start asking why. Why couldn't this person just pay a narrator? Are they that lazy? Which the answer is yes. Yes, definitely. The first of many segments for the AI talking bullshit talks about Need for Speed 64, a game that once did exist.
Nintendo still ruled many childhoods with the power of cartridges and 64 bits of pure nostalgia. Electronic Arts, meanwhile, was beginning to establish the Need for Speed series as a benchmark for stylish street racing and realistic speed. Everything
First of all, this series was never established as a street racing franchise. Anyone could have told you this.
realism and made something more arcade style, more fun, alternate routes, secret ramps, and I don't know, Beatles? Suddenly the whole project shifted. The game that started out as Need for Speed 64 began to turn into something entirely new. Lighter, more chaotic, more kid friendly.
Also, what the AI is saying is a half truth, as the development was started on Beat Adventure Racing after EA signed a deal with Volkswagen to produce a game about the, at the time, new Beetle. Also, get the fuck out of here. This series was never realistic. I mean, at the time, they may have been, but this was 1999. Gran Turismo had already hit the market in 1997. Need for Speed was never realistic. Also, take a look at this. Like, listen to this. This is some absolutely weird shit.
Dozens of hidden paths, a more colorful art style, and of course, only licensed Volkswagen New Beetle. From a serious racing game with supercars and police chases, it evolved into a
So
wacky
now we come to the next game mentioned by the AI, Need for Speed Takedown. Now, contrary to what the AI is spitting out, there is a game called Need for Speed Takedown for arcades. So yeah, this supposed canceled NFS title is actually an arcade game called Need for Speed Heat Takedown, which, fun fact, is the first arcade game since Carbon in the series. So not only is this not a canceled title, but it's not even a game that actually exists with no evidence. This arcade port is the only thing that comes up when searching Need for Speed Takedown into Google. Also, during this section, the AI starts talking about being chased by the police, yet says there were no police. Right. Despite all this crazy bullshit, this section is just a nothing burger. Let's move on. The next one is Need for Speed Millionaire, which actually did exist about as a concept. In October 2013, Criterion head Alex Ward had tweeted about the concept, stating that it was Top Gear with free burn challenges, and basically it had you as a millionaire. All of what I've just shown and said is all we know about the project itself. However, the AI goes much further than what Alex himself had said, and has and none of this has any sources to back up the fantastical detail the AI goes into. All of this being Jeff Bezos and owning a car with airplane speakers, it is all fantasy. Nothing was said by the developers, and yet this AI doesn't really say anything other than, oh yeah, it's real.
Criterion, Need for Speed Millionaire. And if you're thinking that name sounds like fan fiction, yeah, it kinda does. But
Oh yeah, this image you see here used in the video was actually a thumbnail made by Black Panther under his name Left Trigger UK from 2013. Yeah, instead of creating a fake image in Photoshop, the person publishing this video just put someone else's thumbnail and hoped nobody else would notice. Also, check this out.
cars, planes, yachts, private jets, and even real estate to buy and customize. Yep, it was basically GTA for the automotive elite.
Ugh. If it seems I am skipping over a ton of details, that is because I am. A lot of this video is just a nothing burger fluff, just made to just pad out the runtime. We still got 20 minutes, mind you. I am doing you a fucking favor by skipping over a lot of the stupidly outlandish details because potential for funny bullshit for the AI to say that plays this video gets to be very old quickly and it just gets frustrating. Now we get to talking about Need for Speed Most Wanted 2, which did exist, but unfortunately, it was never meant to be. The idea was pioneered by Criterion Games after the release of Hot Pursuit 2010. It was meant to be a grittier and darker sequel that had themes like kidnapping and had pursuit tech, an idea brought over from the previous aforementioned title. The game had a good amount of its open world finished and had some kind of playable story missions. However, as the time turned to 2012, there was a problem. EA was not willing to budge on the holiday 2012 release date. In other words, Criterion was fucked. With the deadline approaching ever so closer, the developers had to water down the game to where the final game would become and looked nothing like what they had previously made. When the game released, Criterion took the brunt of the damage, even being labeled by some people as scum of the earth. Yeah, people were really brutal back then, just as they are now. Here is how the AI frames these events.
A direct sequel to Most Wanted was strong, but the fear of messing with the classic was even stronger. No one wanted to be the one to ruin one of the franchise's biggest successes, so in 2012, EA made a controversial call. They greenlit a new Most Wanted for Criterion, but not a sequel, a reboot. Most Wanted 2012 launched with an open world, a Burnout-style feel, and barely any connection to
Well, it does seem that the developers didn't want to mess with the original, but knowing what we know now, it's just as likely that they were trying to save face in the face of utter disaster. Also, the AI framed it as if EA greenlit a new game late in development. I'm not a game developer, but I don't think that's how development works. Also, again, knowing what I know, none of what the AI is describing is remotely true. Going back towards the beginning of the segment, the AI mentions a return to Rockport, which again, from the footage, is not real, nor is the idea that Razor would return with a new blacklist. This video then starts to talk about Need for Speed Edge, which, is the MMO released in Asian markets. Which, actually, I guess maybe I'm asking too much from you. Most of you probably don't know this knowledge. Need for Speed Edge was an online MMO released in 2017 and shut down in 2019, just 2 years after launch. So wait, isn't this video about canceled Need for Speed titles? Yes. So going by this framing, Motor City Online in Need for Speed World would also be canceled games. At this point, I'm getting tired of just reading this AI script's absolute bullshit. So I'm just going to summarize at least like two more from here. The Run 2 would have been a sequel to The Run, but there is little to no evidence that The Run 2 ever entered development or really anything the AI is saying. Terra 5 was a concept that does exist and does have video. The AI goes on to ramble on about the game as if they knew what the developers were planning on doing more than what we know. From this point, it goes off the rails to games that blatantly do not exist, that the AI, as usual, are just making shit up in the first place. The rest of the video is just a nothing burger. Well, it still has tons of misinformation. But at this point, I would just be repeating myself. It is so goddamn repetitive. Also, yes, just to let you know, I know that YouTube just announced that they're going to stop monetizing AI content on like July 15th, but I was working on this video for like almost 2 months. I don't care. I'm working on this. Fuck off. The most infuriating thing about this video is not just the fact that it spreads misinformation, it's about how many views it's got. Looking at Fastminer's video, for example, he got 30,000 views. This, in comparison, now, as I'm recording this on July the 12th, has over 160,000 views. Do you not see how depressing this is? Someone who put more care into the video that he made over probably several months got less views than someone who probably took less than 2 hours to make a video. That's not only insulting to Fastmire, but every single person who's ever made a fucking YouTube video in their life. There are so many people who take so much time out of their day to make such a good YouTube video. Then there are people like this who don't give a shit about having quality, but rather just want to make money off of YouTube. That's all their primary objective is. Well, the video got tons of views. Thankfully, people in the comments weren't falling for it. They were asking constantly for sources, which honestly warmed my heart a little bit. But then I saw the follow up video that released during this video's production, with people constantly asking about why people should be caring about sources. Hopefully, this video, I think, at least points out just how stupid this looks to, say something that doesn't exist and at times claim that there are sources when you're clearly not listing any or really giving anyone reference to go somewhere to at least find it. When you claim such fantastical things with no evidence, then that really does make you look like a fraud. However, this isn't the only thing I've seen in the racing game community that uses generative AI. Almost just last year, on August 29th of 2024, a game called Car Street was released for PC. It was lambasted upon release for using generative AI, not only for the art, but for voices, and like the AI dialogue. Well, initially the game somehow got a positive reception, and it's really made the developers look like shitty people, or at least the people who authorized the decision. However, this won't be the end for generative AI in video games, or also mainly racing games. The next one might, keyword might, be Project Motor Racing, headed by none other than Ian Bell, originally of Slightly Mad Studios, and he or someone, I don't know who, decided to bring on someone who's a AI entrepreneur, who's yes, someone who is so heavily invested in generative AI. I'll leave the article in the description. It's quite infuriating. I have actually no reason why they decided to do this. Hopefully, most of the community can reject all of this, alongside much of the other videos being shown here, and stop giving these people attention. That is all. Goodbye.